Waste Management, Phoenix Open, first round leader bets, PrizePicks Props, outright bets, ownership leverage, lineup builder, value report, and much more. Let's get into it. All right, so going to be touching on everything here. I do find this update curious for the PGA Tour that they did. It's going to take some getting used to, but I kind of like how they have this laid out. We can see the whole locations for round one. This is going to help us be able to better determine maybe some possible scoring opportunities for stuff like prize picks and whatnot. It'd be cool to see. And then we also do have the weather report that's pulled up right here. I like that as well. Okay. It's pretty slick. Okay. So overall, I think we're going to enjoy the updates that have come from the PGA Tour here. And we can see the weather here. We're looking at the hourly and daily. Nothing too crazy for this tournament, okay? So now let's go ahead and start out with the prize picks content. Okay, so looking at it right now, we can see the overall edge on the slate is slightly favoring the over. But I will tell you guys this, they did a very good job of pricing this tournament thus far. We are not getting edges that we would typically want. The biggest edge that we are getting is in the strokes, okay? And I don't love attacking this too much in round one just yet. And I was looking at underdog. It's going to be the same across the board there. So we can see, like, for their average scores here, like JT, 7.5. The average event score here is about 70. Okay, so like across the board, we can see kind of why he's projected to get over 6.85 strokes. And his game has been a little bit lackluster lately. Now, he is kind of one of the poster boys for this tournament. He enjoys playing in this tournament. So I don't know, I'm kind of sticking away from strokes, even though it is the one prop in which we are seeing we should be getting an edge in. And I would say, as a whole, I would say a majority of these are going to hit. I just don't feel comfortable betting any one of them specifically. And so we'll go ahead and flip it, see if we have any that we can bet the opposite way. And so we can see that the greens in regulation might be a little bit overvalued right now. And so this was something that I thought they were going to take away earlier this morning. They actually had taken some of these off and then they just repopulated it. So interesting there. Looking at though, these are all pretty high numbers for this tournament. Okay, 14 is a lot. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players at 14 or more greens in regulation. Now, looking at it, we can see the event average is 12.3. Okay, this is dating back to last year. So what we can see is, like, if we do a player, like, let's look at their player average. So Hideki Matsuyama averages 12.1 greens per round. His line is set at 13.5. We can see why that's an edge. Corey Connors, he is someone that is pretty strong when we're looking at like greens and regulations and fringe. And even 13.5 is a good number. But we can see his average is under that line. And so he's only projected to get 13. Okay. So I have been enjoying attacking the greens and regulation a little bit better because I feel like it's going to be more predictable. And we have kind of seen that thus far. Now, you guys did see I added strokes in there. Okay, I'm testing that out this week to see if it's going to be worthwhile. Now, birdie or better matchup, guys, I slightly changed the calculation in here, and we can see why it's much more of a 50-50 decision maker here. Okay, across the board, it's going to be very close. The one that we're getting is Patrick Cantlay over Cameron Young. And Cameron Young has just been struggling a little bit recently, so we can kind of see why I would avoid this. I would avoid the birdie or better matchups. And I was hoping that we were going to get some good fairway hit ones, and we're just not, okay? Like Victor Hovland only projected to get over fairways hit by 0.6. So not huge there. It is a flat line though, so there is a good chance that he pushes. Like these 4 right here are strong bets because there's a good chance that they're just pushes. Okay. But once again, if we are going to be betting on a prop, it's going to be looking at greens and regulation, and we're going to be betting the under. And so the simple approach would be Scotty Scheffler under 14 greens, Hideki under 13.5 greens, Jordan under 13.5 greens. And he's pretty inconsistent, so I don't mind this one. And then the last one was Corey Connors under 14 greens. And really the biggest bet here is you're betting on them not being able to green it on some of those par 3s, because you would assume on the par 5s, they're going to be able to green in 3 shots. So this week, that should be an automatic 3, which benefits this week, okay? And let's just call that out again. There are 3 par 5s. And so PrizePicks doesn't seem like they're adjusting for the fact that we are getting 3 par 5s and not 4, because 4 par 5s should mean 4 greens in regulation, kind of automatically. And this one on 15 is more difficult because it's protected by water, okay? If a player misses the fairway, they might be forced to lay up, or they might be forced to lay up in general. Thus, if that's the layup, maybe we get lucky and maybe their ball rolls off the front of the green into this area. Okay. And if we look at the par 3s, 180 set or 183, they should be able to make their green there. 215, that's going to be a difficult one to hit. Okay. Another one, 192 with water in the back, they're going to be trying to hit short there. Okay. So tougher there. to hit. And then this is an easy one. So 2 out of the 4 par 3s that we're getting going to be harder to hit the green than it would be on a typical week. And I think that's why on average, we do see the greens in regulation be 12.3. So let's go ahead and move on into the round 1 showdown / betting. So last week, guys, we got robbed by the weather. Will Gordon was looking like he was going to win the first round leader, and then he wasn't in before the weather hit. And then he made, I think, bogey double to close out his round, much like a lot of golfers, okay, where really their tournament changed because the PGA Tour did not decide to suspend play on Thursday when they should have. And that was kind of the biggest gripe for everyone in the industry, is kind of the fact that on Saturday they just suspended play. On Thursday they hadn't. Like, they had already changed kind of the outcome of the tournament by not suspending play on Thursday. So it was weird that they did it on Saturday. Now, looking at the first round leader, I typically always want to be targeting players that have the AM wave tee time, because typically speaking, they're the ones that are having the first round lead, or at least a share of it. And so once again, let's just refer to this weather report here if we can. Look at daily. And I kind of wish we could see hourly here on this tab, but we would see it's going to be a little bit less windy in the morning. Once again, still trying to figure out the new PGA Tour website layout, but just looking at it here, guys. So AM only, we are basically getting all the golfers that are expected to play well win rank wise. Let's sort it by first round leader rank. We can see we can get Jon Rahm at 22-1. You can get Rory at 22-1. You can get Sungjae Im at 40-1. Pretty good odds there. And the thing with Sungjae Im is, like, he always plays good, but is he ever going to play like elite enough? Like, I was struggling with him this week, kind of like every week, where he's a great play every single week, but like, what is his upside? Top 10, top 5? Like, does he have that winning upside in a field like this? And maybe he has the first round lead upside, but he is definitely a player that plays safe when he needs to. So because of that, we're not exactly getting the upside for first round lead. Now, 40-1 is a great number for a guy that ranks out second most likely to have the first round lead, I guess third. These two are tied, but we can see that's a good number. And same thing for Tom Kim, 40-1, Patrick Cantlay, 35-1, Max Homa, 35-1, Victor Hovland, 41. Like, we are getting great numbers on golfers that are likely to have the first round lead. And so that's kind of why I like to attack first round lead. Now, chances are this is going to get chopped up, but we can consistently hit the first round leader, okay? We've already done it a majority of times in 2023. And so we just need that 1 week now where it's not chopped up and we're on the first round leader. These are going to be my favorite bets for that. Now, outright wise, let's just talk about it. I was struggling this week to there's a lot of great numbers on golfers, okay? A lot of great numbers. And I think one of the troubles people have with outright betting is seeing great numbers on golfers and chasing it. And personally, I think this is an adjustment that the PGA Tour, not the PGA Tour, the sportsbooks have done recently. With the trend of great golfers winning, like expected golfers winning, they had to make an adjustment because they know people aren't going to bet on, let's just say, for example, Keegan Bradley, who is a strong play this week. If he was, let's say, 40-1, they have to hang a good number out on someone like Keegan, who's a pretty strong play this week, just to try to get some people to bet on it, even though he's most likely not going to win. Same thing with like Corey Connors, JT Poston, Tagala, 50-1. Tom Hoagie, Seamus Power, who was a favorite last week. Tommy Fleetwood, 80-1. Jason Day, 65-1. Okay, they have to kind of put out those good numbers now because of the trend of good players winning normally, because it's not really logical to place a long shot bet. Now, for me this week, I will just be going Rahm, okay, Xander, Cantlay, and Homa. I am keeping it simple with my betting card. And we can see those are the players that really had the best chance to win. And so by reducing the field to the strongest outright bets, I'm trying to increase my likelihood of winning, but I'm also not going to be stupid with my bankroll and just go crazy with the betting card, okay? So that's going to be my strategy this week. So just to recap, Jon Rahm, 8.5-1. I'm fine with that, guys. Like, it is what it is. If you want to do first round lead and win, you could possibly do that. Okay. I'm going Xander 14-1. And if I'm betting Xander, then you guys already know I'm going to be betting Patrick Cantlay. Think about Xander and Cantlay last year. Okay. They both choked away the victory last year. You had Xander duck hook a ball into the water last year on this 15th hole. He was in perfect position off the fairway, had a great chance to green it, and he just put it into the water. It might have been 11, actually. I don't know. It was one of these two holes, 11 or 15. And he just choked. It was as simple as that. Like, he felt the pressure and did not make a winning shot. He was in control to win at that point because Cantlay had made a mistake. So they were two players that choked away a victory and Don't get me wrong, Sky Scheffler also won it as well, but he did benefit from those two choking. Patrick Cantlay's first year playing at this tournament in the past 4 years was last year. I think he has a great chance to be in contention to win again. Like, we pull up Patrick Cantlay on the 9-5 profile, we can see like kind of just due for a good week, okay? Last 2 weeks, 26th and 16th, he's kind of just due for a good week, I would say. And this is a tournament that he played well at, really coming in, checking all the boxes. It's going to be tough not to love Patrick Cantlay this week. And like, same thing for Xander. He kind of mentioned his back issue. Says it's about 90%. Okay, if we're getting, let's just say he was 50% when he withdrew at the Century Tournament Champions, then 75% these last 2 weeks, we should be good to go then. Like, he finished 13th in his previous tournament. And so if he's 90% this week, in a tournament in which he's finished top 10 3 out of the last 4 years, that's huge. So I think he's going to be good to go. And that sounds weird, but I think Max Homa is going to be, I'm struggling with it. Obviously pretty good course history there. We like that. We don't see him winning back-to-back or, 3 times out of his last 6 starts. That's my biggest issue with him. But he does rank out really well, so I have been chasing him as an outright. And that's kind of it outright-wise for me, guys, because I'm just struggling to see, like, sure, Rory could win it. Don't get me wrong. Tony Finau could win it. Don't get me wrong. But, like, confidently, I feel like those are going to be the top bets for this week. And maybe, because we have a limited betting card, if we spot a player that, maybe struggles in round 1, or a spot in which we can jump on a player, kind of like last week with Justin Rose, we can do that then. So let's go ahead and get into the ownership here. All right, so just looking at it right now, I like to sort it by salary at first, and we can really see a theme here, guys. The theme is that everyone is kind of spreading out the ownership on the top end. Now, someone like Max Homa, where he's kind of the forgotten one here, we can see why he's ranking out as the top leverage play. 13%, projected to do just as good as Homa, Finau, Scotty, JT, Colin, Patrick Cantlay. We can see why that's a low number. And like, speaking on JT, sure, we might be worrying about his upside right now, but he is someone that's made 4 straight cuts at this tournament, loves this tournament, and it's coming in at 13.8. That is kind of crazy to me. And then for what it's worth, Tony Finau, we know what we're getting with Tony Finau as a play. We are getting a top 5 finish or kind of a miscut. He is someone that's been that inconsistent. The course history would show that, and his recent starts would show that as well. The fact is, he can get hot and really go out and dominate. At their current ownerships, they are being valued at golfers that are only going to finish top 15. So you got to ask yourself, what's more likely? Tony Finau, Max Homa, and Justin Rose to finish top 15, or Collin Morikawa to finish top 5? Okay, and that's kind of why I have this set up this way. To me, I would say for Max Homa and for Finau, I could see those guys finishing better than that. And Collin Morikawa, I can see maybe not finishing as good as that. So let's go ahead and look at the most overall players. And so right now, guys, we can see Collin Morikawa pulling in way too much ownership. And this is kind of crazy. So we haven't really had that many players really on the top end be pulled in to being like that overowned thus far this season. It hasn't happened too much. And we're finally getting that with Collin Morikawa. Now, I get it, why people are being on him, but can we really justify being on him more than, and let's just scroll by it, Xander, Rory, Cantlay, even Tom Kim, Sungjae Im, JT, Homa, Hideki? Like, no, we can't really validate being on him that much more than the rest of the field. Like, has he seemed like he's trending in the right direction for a win? Is he a great play this week? He is. But let's just go about this logically. Like, trending in the right direction for sure. Okay. Only start here was the 25th. And like, long-term form hasn't really been there. So people are really chasing the 3rd and 2nd place finishes, which I'm not saying is wrong, because he did find his golf shot. That's the biggest reason why he'd been struggling, because his golf shot just wasn't there. It was kind of just missing, and now it's there. So I get why people are on him. Really does rank out well. Key stat-wise in 3 out of the 4 key stats I'm really looking at. Ranks out well there, so I get it. But at the same time, to say he should be that much higher owned than Patrick Cantlay, okay, like 2%, 3% owned more than him, I'd probably rather be on Patrick Cantlay. Hideki, who ranks out slightly better, who has a much better track record here, whose recent form has basically been the same except for one less high upside finish recently. Okay. Much rather be on Hideki, feels safer. I guess I shouldn't say that. With Hideki, he's never feels safe with the withdrawal concerns. But we can see why he's a good play. Like, if we're chasing upside, we could chase Victor Hovland, who, really didn't benefit last week with the weather and still finished 13th. And he's been finishing well. Like, there's just no logical reason that those golfers should be that much, or that Collin Morikawa should be that much higher owned. Like, this should be tighter. Okay, guys? And so that is very interesting to me. And so looking at some other players that are gaining some ownership that probably shouldn't be that high compared to the other players around them. Jason Day, 10%. Like, I don't mind it, guys, but is someone that's probably pulling in a little bit too much ownership. Joel Damon, 6%, like not terrible once again, but compared to the other players around him, how they're being projected owned, a little bit overweight, a little bit too high owned. Kisner, same thing. Gary Woodland for sure. I mean, 8% is just too high for Gary. It's kind of crazy that, and I guess GPP wise, people are chasing Gary Woodland. So let's look at why are they chasing Gary Woodland at 8%? It's not a price point thing. We are getting safer, more upside plays at 8%, right? Nothing recently has shown us any confidence in Gary Woodland. We do see players randomly spike up and play well. Sure, he's played well at this tournament in the distant past, but guys, we only look at the past 4 starts for a reason, because that's when the data is going to be the most significant for course history. It really falls off after year 5, and then after year 6, not really significant. So over the last 4 starts in which we have the best course data on, miscut, 40th and 7th, he has been going in the wrong direction there. 8%, that is crazy. That is crazy for a guy that ranks out terribly. And once again, could he do well? Sure. Chances are it's the wrong move. Ricky, I love Ricky. It's kind of like Jason Day as well. Like, they're fine bets. Now, JT Poston, I just made that argument about Gary Woodland, and guys, I'm going to be overweight on JT Poston. He should be chalkier than this. But why is Gary Woodland that much higher owned than JT Poston? Like, what is going on there? Okay, JT Poston as current price tag is kind of the clear-cut play. Like, if we play JT Poston and he misses the cut, we are perfectly happy with it because we know it's the correct play. He also is a player that can give us the upside. Okay, if he finishes at his worst finish at this tournament over the last 4 years at 37th, we'd be perfectly fine with it because that's a good result at 7.3. It's much better than a more than likely miscut from Gary Woodland. We're getting a likely made cut out of JT Poston here. Okay, 4 straight made cuts. It's weird. And so I'm overweighting him. I know this is saying fade him, and this is where, we have the data, but we also need to use the human aspect of it as well. And so continuing on, like Brian Harman's a little bit over-owned, 6%. I don't need to worry about that too much. Cameron Young is kind of interesting. I don't see why he should be that high owned. Okay, that's a strange one to me. And he's starting to get to that point where he's over-owned. Okay, so let's sort by salary again. Cameron Young, let's look at it. The players around him. Sure, Matt Fitzpatrick, we got to worry about the injuries, but if there wasn't any injury concern, we would say Matt Fitzpatrick a much better play. Jordan, we kind of get why he's pulling in lower ownership. Tagala, I'm fine with that, but here's the biggest one. Terrell Hatton. He could easily go out and play just as good as Cameron Young at a cheaper price tag at significantly lower ownership, 11% lower, coming in as the 4th best leverage rank play. That's extremely interesting to me. Okay, let's look at Hatton's last few starts. 38th, 2nd, 13th, 45th, 7th, 8th. So we have seen some upside finishes from him. Sure, some of those might be on the DP Tour, whatever. Course history-wise, finished 15th at this event 4 years ago. 4 years ago, don't really care too much about it. Top 15 stat fit, top 15 specialist. Let's go ahead and look at Cameron Young, who's my boy. Anyone that's been following this channel for a while knows that I was on him pretty early on last year. It's kind of been disappointing lately, okay? Can he go on and play well at a tournament like this? For sure. I mean, this field's loaded. There's a lot of players like that. And that's kind of the point I'm getting at here, guys, is that with how loaded of a field this is, we don't need to be chasing players that are too chalky for no reason. And I say that because there's a lot of players that are similar plays. And sure, could one of those players that I've kind of talked down on go off? Yeah, I mean, they're elite plays, okay? But the chances are one of these other players that are currently being undervalued for really no reason are just as likely to go off. Max Homa, Tony Finau, JT, Terrell Hatton, Victor Hovland. Like, we can see why these players are being pulled in as lower valued compared to how they should be valued. Now, John Rahm is someone that should be chalkier, and that's kind of the thing here. I think what's happening is because we are getting a lot of ownership like down here, like in this range, like we're getting a lot of decent chalkier, that these golfers where not one of them is like too chalky, like let's say John Rahm was 25% or Rory was 25%, then they would probably be a little bit over-owned. Like, I think it was John Rahm 2 tournaments ago where I think it was like, ended up being like 28% where he was properly owned. Okay, so just all interesting stuff looking at it ownership-wise. And guys, I was pretty tired at the start of this video. Now I just got fired up for some reason there with the ownership stuff. That was crazy. And now just closing out this video, going over the value report. Okay, these are the players that, given the price tag, are popping up. And typically speaking, these are going to be players that are in the 7K price point range. Okay, what I'm looking at here is ability to make the cut, but also upside. We can see why JT Poston, Brian Harman, a little bit shocked that Matt Kuchar's popping up there. Then we got Billy Horschel, Keegan, Herbert, Connors. Okay, let's look at FanDuel real quick. FanDuel, Poston, Harman, basically the same players. I will say Bezuidenhout, he could really go off and go low. Okay, I'm actually curious what his ownership is. 3 10%. I would actually be overweight on that. And I know it's saying slightly overowned. I would actually be overweight on that. And I guess I should show you guys why. So Bazun out is someone that ranks out 35th in the 905 mile, which at this price tag, pretty darn good. Key stat wise ranks out pretty good across the board, especially given this price point. If it wasn't for that one missed cut earlier on at the start of 2023, I think he'd be extremely chalk. 11th, 26th, 3rd, 5th, 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 5th. Besides that, it's tough not to like him. I mean, that's pretty eye appealing at that low ownership. Now, if he was 10%, we'd have to think about it. So I think this is a good chance for us to maybe really gain some leverage on the field. And now, why is he not ranking out leverage-wise here? Because this is just looking at everything on paper, okay? This doesn't have my personal bias going into it, okay? It's all about ranking the players around them based off of how they're going to do and based off of how the public is currently valuing them. And that's how we determine if a player is over-owned, under-owned, and whatnot, okay? To me, I think this is just way too low for Bazun now. It doesn't really make sense to me, just given the upside that he has. I will say Adam Hadwin, extremely low owned as well. Like, what is going on there, right? What is going on there? Corey Connors, pretty chalky for a reason. Keegan Bradley, pretty chalky for a reason. JT Poston probably should be chalkier. But let's look at Adam Hadwin. And this is part of kind of the value aspect too, guys. That's why I'm getting into it in this section. Let's look at this. Like, if we're expecting like a top 10 finish out of Hadwin, probably not going to get it. If we're trying to get a make cut, probably going to get it, okay? Course history-wise, 26th, 50th, 40th, 44th. Good stuff there. Has his recent form been great? You could argue, given the price tag, yeah, actually it has been. Okay, 44th in his last event, not great. Besides that, 18th, 7th, 32nd, 49th, 10th. Like, those are all starts that we're going to take. I mean, not the best play on the board, but 33rd best pick in the 905 model at 7.1. That is very good. And so we can see, man, we are actually getting some really good opportunities to gain some leverage on the field. Now, my biggest concern about the value and the leverage right now is that people are going to figure out, okay, where people are making mistakes right now, okay? And so I could see that being adjusted as the week goes on. You know, everyone has their own little Discord chats and whatnot, group messages or whatnot, where maybe they are keeping someone low for a reason, or maybe they are spiking someone's ownership up for a reason, and then it gets switched like that overnight. Okay, so just be careful of that. Now, looking at Yahoo, if people still play Yahoo, Russell Knox really popping up decently there. Wyndham Clark as well, 2 players at minimum price, you know, have a good chance to make the cut. I'm fine with those 2 plays. Bazunhout still decent. Poston still decent. And that's kind of it. And then getting into the 9-5 lineup builder, I just want to show you guys which players or which builds it's favoring right now. I don't need to do a full lineup builder video. This video's already gone pretty long. So whatever. I'm just going to put in my 2 data points that I need for this to start with, and just whatever. I don't really care, because I just want you guys to see what it is. So I'm just going to do like 40% max own, 35. Okay, whatever. Okay. And so let's just generate to see kind of which are the best lineups that we can get. I'll do this for round 1 as well. Okay, so look at that, guys. I mean, we can, this is the problem. We can make some very strong builds on paper here, and it's extremely interesting. So one thing I might do, I'm probably going to jump on Adam Hadwin a little bit more, maybe Bazun now, because those are 2 ownerships I think are too low. We can already see we're getting enough of these other guys. Okay, fine with that. Probably not going to have that much of Billy Horschel. Don't need to. Alex Noren's extremely interesting. We can see Jason Day is pulling up in there, and that's probably why he's being a little bit overvalued this week, because, you know, price tag wise is easy to fit into a lot of builds. And that's probably why he's getting that much ownership, because, you know, like mine is showing, it's very easy for a lineup builder to plug and play him. Now, round 1, just in general, let's go ahead and look at it. Once again, I'm kind of going to do the same thing. Like John Rahm, class of the field, we saw that. Rory, class of the field, we saw that. Would probably want to bump up some other, you know, really strong round 1 plays, like Tom Kim or whatnot. But let's just go ahead and take a look at this for you guys. Okay, so player exposure, kind of the same players. I guess I could do 40% or 35% here. There we go. Let's generate it again just to see. Let's pull in Victor Hovland, Sanjay to start with. That makes sense. Seamus Power, pretty good round 1 player. Victor Hovland, Hatton, Noren, Count. I mean, this makes sense. Those are all pretty good builds. Now, I probably do want to favor AM instead. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to deselect and then select all the AM players. Okay. But that's all for this video. Wow. I started off pretty low key in this video, and then the ownership, it got fun there. It was fun talking that ownership. So I typically don't like to. You guys know, I think a lot of ownership talk is fluff. But hopefully I gave you guys some, you know, strong, actionable information in this video. All right, let's have a good slate, and as always, let's keep cashing.